Why you should buy and wait for the next cooling measure? Because what we want to do for you is actually to help you catch the uprise that is happening at this moment. If you look at my previous video, I did mention the telltale signs, which is there should be an oversupply before every cooling measure. Alright, but if we look at the 2024 first half, 2024 second half, there are still some lands that are still unsold, including the 2025 first half lands, the 9 plots of lands that are released. So moreover, as you can see from this newspaper article, 2024 private home prices only went up by a 3.9%. So in the meantime, while we are waiting for the oversupply to be introduced into the market, I feel that there will be some lead time before cooling measures are introduced into the market, because we need to wait for the supply from the lands to come back and be launched into the market to replenish this supply. And if we can take a look at that, now we are just at 3.9% coupled with the tipping point of the market. Alright, as what we can say, the oversupply must happen first. But if the lands are not even sold, how can they even be launched in the market to allow the supply to come back into the market? So to me, I feel that the cooling measures will still take a little bit of time before it is implemented, right? Because what happens, if you recall what I mentioned before, how influential the supply factors are. As long there isn't enough supply or an undersupply in the market, no matter how many cooling measures you implement, the prices will still go up. From now till then, can we catch this uprise for you? Because with the 4 push factors about the interest rate dropping, the stress test dropping that allows people to take 100 to 150k more loan, the tipping point of the market, and coupled with GFA harmonization, which actually shrinks the quantum of the properties by a little bit, it priced a lot of people in. So can we capitalize on this opportunity that we have right now to catch this uprise in the market? Now, the key question to ask is this: should we wait for the cooling measures to buy? Because I realize that many people fall into this trap. They fall into this misconception thinking that cooling measures will actually drop price. Let's not fall into this cooling measure trap. So what is this cooling measure trap? When there is cooling measure, people think that prices will drop, wait and see. But when they wait and see that time and realize that the prices go up already, they say cannot buy again. So is it forever cannot buy? So let's debunk this misconception so that you all have a clear certainty how to chart ahead. So if we take a look at this graph down here, take for example 2018 cooling measure. Alright, if you look at this point down here, just before the 2018 cooling measures in Q1, we are at this point. I've seen so many people make this mistake, thinking that cooling measures will drop price, but in actual fact it didn't, and they end up paying more than what they were supposed to pay before. So if we look at this chart down here, in 2018 Q2, just before the July cooling measures, by right you were supposed to enter at this price, right? But if you decided to wait after the July cooling measures come in, after all, cooling measures is still negative news, so it will take some time for buyers to accept it before getting back into the market. And if you look at after 2018 cooling measures, it only dropped by a mere 0.7%, and that is because the 2018 cooling measures affected only the resales, because whenever cooling measures happen, resales will be the first one to take the hit depending on what kind of cooling measures are implemented. But otherwise, because of higher land prices being sold, the new launches will always continue to hold its price because the developer need to maintain its profit margin and break-even price. So if you look at that, after the 2018 July cooling measures, many people thought that the prices would drop, and that's why they didn't buy. What happened after that? If we look at it after the cooling measure, did the prices drop? No, it didn't. In fact, it continued going up. So those people who realized this, they faster enter the market, but they enter at a lower price as compared to before? No, but instead they end up paying higher than before. So everybody, let's not fall into the trap. Now to take a look at this, a repeat of this pattern, if we look at the December 2021 cooling measure, if you look at it back then, just before the 2021 cooling measure in December, we look at 2021 Q3 that time, we were at this point down here. It was considered quite high back then, and like what I always say, government will only implement cooling measure when the prices peak out. There's a reason why they need to implement the cooling measure, because the prices must have risen and peaked out. That's why need to introduce the cooling measure. Am I right or not? So that's why I always say buy to wait for the next cooling measure, because you buy already, the prices peak out already, government introduce cooling measure, flat it out first, let it stabilize, and then the uprise will begin again. So coming back to this December 2021 cooling measure pattern, if you look at 2021 Q3, the same thing happened. We are at this point. It is probably the highest point compared to the previous quarters. You also catch that the prices will have gone up by a little bit. Should you have entered back then, or should you wait for cooling measures to happen? If you enter back then, very good. But if you decide to wait, look what happened again. After the December 2021 cooling measures, in 2022 Q2, prices shot up again by another 0.7%. Why? Largely due to the undersupply that was happening at that point of time. Remember, because of the COVID situation, we were not able to sell lands to introduce more supply. End up what happened? Because of the undersupply, no matter what kind of cooling measures you have, prices will continue shooting up. And so the guy who waited now ends up buying something higher than what he was supposed to pay before. So, learning from these last two patterns, the key question to ask you is this: with the news looming around like this, should you wait for the next cooling measures before you buy, or should you enter before that? Do not fall into this trap anymore. In fact, I've seen so many people that waited and ended up paying more than what they were supposed to pay. Now, the key question is this. We don't have a crystal ball, but we have a crystal lamp here. My LV 8,000万个档. I hope he also can give us the answer, but I don't think so. We are not going to leave it to a lamp or a crystal ball to determine our future. The key thing is this: how are we going to help you choose an evergreen property so that when good time or bad time also can sell? What does this lead to? It leads to price sustainability. When this leads to price sustainability, does it mean that you will make money? Yes. So in the meantime, you can check out my Ori video or my other project videos that will rate its evergreen scorecard. But most importantly, do contact me for a consultation, because I have certain frameworks to cater to your individual scenario and situation, and how to balance between your requirements as well as what I feel about the market, so that we can achieve an alignment and narrow down to the right property to choose. And of course, if you like all this content, keep me motivated, like, share and subscribe to this channel, and I'll continue to create more insightful content like this with all my research, insight, but most importantly, consumer thought process that I have on the ground.